We are at my favorite Goodwill, and the very first thing I spied was this. This is $29.99 blow mold bunny, and then I spied the little resin bunny next to it. I was very excited that they are getting more Easter items at my favorite Goodwill. They had quite a selection of baskets. I turned the blow mold around to see if there was a year on it. It was made in America. And I don't decorate with blow molds. I have one snowman for Christmas, but I don't the rest of the year or the rest of the holidays. I don't do blow molds. And it was too high of a resale, for me to flip. And so then I started looking at these baskets. And don't these baskets remind you of your childhood? They remind me of my childhood. So I skipped over the blow mold and decided to look at what other Easter items they had. They had these cute little bunnies that I think someone had glued on silk flowers, which I thought was very sweet. There was this little light. It was $6.99. They also had some window clings. When Jenny was little, we used to decorate for the holidays with window clings because they're easy for a child to put on the window. I love a little bit goodie bag with critters in it. These weren't really talking to me that much. They weren't terribly old. There were quite a few of these little Easter tree ornament sets. And then I've sold these in the past. They look like chocolate foiled bunnies or eggs. You just have to be careful that the foil is not ripped on them. I've sold much larger egg figurines in the past, but I just wasn't feeling those. And around the corner, we're going to give one last look to the blow mold. Around the corner, the cow is still there, and I'm looking to see if there's any really unique Easter baskets. You can see that the Occupied Japan basket is still there. It still does not have a price tag on it. It's gotten moved around though. I wonder if the price tag keeps falling off. Here's some more baskets that reminded me of my childhood. Then look over here. Look how high these handles are. How are these not broken? I think one of them had a repair on it, but you got the whole set of those. Super, super high. Those remind me of the Easter baskets that, they come pre-packaged with the plastic wrap and they'd have a stuffed animal or a large toy. Maybe that's what those were from. Christmas is out year-round around here, but they do kind of sprinkle in the current holiday. See, here's some more ornaments for your Easter tree. They do kind of sprinkle the Easter in with the Christmas. I thought this was a really cute butter dish. I thought, well, this has to have a name on it. And so I decided to take the rubber band to see if there would be a name. But at first we're going to look at these creamer and sugars. Then I realized it was a whole set here. That was the creamer. Here was a sugar bowl. And then there was a tiny little teacup. No, teapot. There we go, teapot. I wonder if that was a child set. I thought that was sweet. They were all priced very different. I think they were $6.99, $6.99, and $4.99. I'll double check. Yes, I went back and listened to the original audio, and they were $6.99, $6.99, and $4.99, like I said before. That nice little tin there. It had a little bit too much wear on it. And now I'm looking at the Occupied Japan baskets again, thinking, do I need to go bug them for a price? But I decided not to. I know that they're old and that is really special that they've lasted this long. But for some reason, I just not feeling it. I could not find a maker on that pig butter dish. And then I liked the look of these glasses. They kind of had a vintage look to them. I'm not sure if they were old or not. That is just a flocked bunny rabbit. And then they had a little lemon collection here, lemon bowl. I think they were plastic lemons. And then they had the lemon pitcher, which had a chip on it. And then up top, I think, was a tiny little lemon tree. I thought this was going to be Primitives by Kathy, but no, it was handcrafted by Matthew in 2005. And then moving on down, there is where, this is where they have furniture normally. They mostly have lamps at the moment. But over in here, there was this pottery piece. I have not figured out the maker on this pottery piece. It's an oil lamp. I like the style with the leaves pressed into it. Little dandelion, like little speckles in there. It is missing the rope or the string that you use for the oil lamp. But other than that, I think it's in really great condition. I was looking to see if these were old. I feel they were contemporary, and I also felt like they had some kind of bird droppings on them. Maybe it was just missing paint. Let's go with missing paint. They were restocking. There's the restocking cart at the end of the end cap there. Doing a quick glance over in the Christmas, because you never know. This was pointy, so I felt it was missing its stand. And they had a whole bunch of these. Some of them had been yellowed. They're little snack trays. But that looks like a lot of work, and I didn't like that some of them were yellowed, so I left that for somebody else. If they were in better shape, I probably would have taken the time to wash them. Here is a little pottery nativity, and I was able to take the little contents out of the crush there, and they had Jesus and Mary, I think, was in there. You can see Jesus right there. But not everybody was there. When I look for nativities, I look for Joseph, Mary, Jesus. And then bonus is if you have the 3 wise men, and even extra points if you have some animals. I felt like it was incomplete, but someone was sure to come by and enjoy it, so I left that. Seeing what kind of creamers they have. I have sold through my creamers, so I don't have such an abundance of them, but I am trying not to get a new collection of them. And it sounds like an ambulance is in the background. Everyone's safe and sound here. I hope everyone is safe and sound where you are. Up top on the restocking cart, they had some curlers. Who remembers those curlers? I do. I remember those from when I was little. My great aunt ran a beauty shop, and we would go visit her in the summertime. She would roll our hair with those kind of rollers. Saw all of this amber glass and spied this piece. And I was like, what is on here? But then I noticed it was coming off with my fingernail. So I felt that this would be a great project to clean. I love a good rescue when it involves cleaning. See how the other glasses kind of have that hazy thing to it? I think those would probably clean right up, but I tend to not pick up goblets. I think this might be Fenton, but it could be Indiana glass. So if you know for sure, I would appreciate it, because it comes up both when I do the research. It has grapes on it. So here I'm showing you how it has that same kind of yuckiness to it. So I think that will clean up pretty good. I like the color on this, but it had an inscription on it. So I decided not to get that. The color of the week is green, so I got 0 items with green. That's the joke between Jenny and me. She always finds a green item or the color of the week item. I never do. It's very rare when I do. This is really pretty. I like the color. Nice and, well, colorful. The Matador is still here, and the cottages are still there. I was double checking the cottages to see if maybe I need to get any more, but I decided not to. I have sold through all of the cottages I got on a previous trip. That vase, well, this is very pretty too. This was heavy, probably crystal. Couldn't see a mark on it, so I decided to leave that there. But the Asian vase over to the right there in the very, very, very corner, it was pretty, but it was more contemporary, and so that is why I did not pick up that vase. This back here was glass. Someone had painted it. I think we do see a signature or a year or something on it. And then sometimes you see these shells and they have carved like the like Hawaii or Cancun, but those were just plain ones. I always have to make sure I take my time to look, because sometimes I look real quickly and I get excited and then I don't go back and look again. So that's what I'm trying to do here. I found another cottage. Look at that poor little chicken. That chicken toothpick holder is still here. And then I spied another oil lamp, another pottery piece. I really like the colors on this one. Now this one has not been used, or if it has been used, they have replaced the wick. So that one does have a wick in it. And then I'm drawn to anything in a little baggie. They were little resin dogs from a gift shop. I was looking to see if there were any Hagen Renekers, but there weren't. Seeing maybe were there any metal ones, but there weren't. There's one guy, he looked like Mr. McGregor. And then there were 2 little bells. Well, three little bells in there. The dish was nice. It was made in Italy. And then over there, I spied this. Remember this from a couple videos ago? And I didn't get it because it had a hairline crack. Well, I did some more research, and it does have a good sell-through rate, even with the crack. And I looked at it closer, and it really isn't that bad. It's not like someone dropped it has a crack. It's kind of an old age crack. I have a couple of those on my face. And it wasn't here the last time. I'm pointing out the crack. It wasn't there the last time I was there, so I thought someone bought it. And then it reappeared. So I definitely got it. Here I'm showing this. Why am I doing that? Well, I don't know what I did there. Showing you that in a weird way. Now we're back in the vases. Here was another pottery piece. It reminded me of an ikebana without the ikebana, the metal flower frog in the bottom of it. It did have a chip that I felt was noticeable as my eye was drawn right towards that repaired chip. So even though it was very nice, I decided not to get it because that chip was noticeable. You never know what's hidden over here, so that's why I always look. That was interesting. On the bottom was a very large tray. It was nicely done, but too big for me. I don't like to pack huge trays anymore. Then I'm scanning the baskets to see if there are any Longenberger Easter baskets. That would be nice. Up top here was one with pine cones. That was interesting. And in here it looks like a cookie jar or something. I think that lid was on the small side for that piece. Now we're going to look over here. Oh, the camera's like really wobbly. Wow. Hopefully you're not getting too sick. Someone made that candle. It made it look like it was a crystal, but the whole thing was candle. All right. Sometimes there's hidden treasures here. This was a jewelry box. Seeing if I could open it with one hand, and yes, I could do it with one hand. There is the maker on the bottom. Sometimes old jewelry boxes are worth money, but I want to make sure that they're in really good condition. That is that SWANK, I think. I've sold that before. There was some wear on the inside. Of course, it will have some because it has some age to it, but just wasn't feeling it. This was a cute little blender, more contemporary dollhouse furniture piece. Oh, we found this. Someone took some tin and made a little sign, put it in a bread basket, looks like. There were a whole bunch of these things, but they weren't that interesting enough for me to figure out what they were. Now we're moving on down, and oh, look at this. Isn't this cute? Some people are blockheads. I've seen the one where it says like our family is nuts, and it has a whole bunch of walnuts together. There's a St. Francis figurine. And what are we going to find? I forget what we're going to find here. I feel like we find something else. There was a trivet. This is very detailed. It was made in India. Decided not to get that. Even though this is my favorite Goodwill, the music does tend to be a little bit loud. And sometimes I'm immune to it because I'll take Jenny and we'll be shopping and she's like, man, the music's loud here. And I'm like, oh, is it? It just is kind of like part of the shopping at Goodwill. But sometimes I feel like if I stand in certain areas in the store, I might be right underneath a speaker. So that is why today I decided to do a voiceover for the whole video. So I hope you are enjoying that. I am talking to you in real time, and I feel like we have really great conversations, even if they are one-sided. But sometimes when I start the video, I'm like, whoa, that music was loud. So every once in a while, I'll do a voiceover, or I'll try to do voiceovers in sections if the music gets too loud in places. So far, I think the big Goodwill, their music isn't that bad. And I think the one in Palmyra isn't that bad either. Here are some tiny little tea sets. It's hard to tell if they're complete though. So I decided not to get those, even though they were super cute. And now I'm panning slowly over. Don't want to get too dizzy. And I see that there are some interesting things here. Now, this is a mini kit. It's a little German girl doll. And I thought this was adorable. It had a turtle on the box. And I like how she's giving side eye. And I'll show at the end of the video the little paper insert with the other kind of dolls that would be super fun to have. I decided to, I did look her up on eBay, but then I kind of just purely got her because I thought it was cute. So that was, I just think you're cute. You're going in the cart. And I thought this was very pretty. It was marked made in Germany, which grabbed my attention. It was a very, very pretty color, nice shape. And then when I put it in the Google, it came up that it was sold through Pier 1, which makes sense. Pier 1 had some nice pieces, but this was very large. And even though Pier 1 does sell well, some things are regular, but some things go crazy. I just didn't want to deal with it. I think someone else probably came by and snagged it. It was very, very nicely done. You could tell it was good quality. A whole bunch of tiles here and some wall signs. And then up top, some canisters. And then down here, what do you think of this? This kind of creeps me out a little bit. All those milk glass vases, someone obviously needed gold ones, so they sprayed them all. I just thought it was neat because you can see the design better, but I just felt that was kind of sad. Over here were 2 tins for 1 money. I like the double-decker bus. I remember when I was little, we went to England, and I remember riding in the double-decker buses, and it was during the 80s. I almost dropped that tree that was not going to break, even if it dropped. But I remember riding in the double-decker buses, and the top used to be for smokers. That's probably not now because smoking is kind of not popular anymore to do inside closed places. But that I like that memory of that with the bus. And then I liked the tin with the teapots on it. And it says Betty's on the top. It is for a tea. Both are made in England. And that is another, these are cute. Why don't you get in my cart? Here is another tin that has the telephone. Another typical English photo opportunity. I'm reading to see what was in there. I think they were biscuits. I almost got this, but it had a dent on the side of it. And I've seen that before, so I decided not to get it. The other bag, you could say, well, the double-decker bus isn't that unusual, but it was mostly, I like the teapot tin. And sorry, I'm shaking you around a little bit. I'm putting the lid back on the tin, put it back on the shelf. Seeing what that is, seeing if I need it. Here were some birds, but most of them were missing their beaks, so I moved on. Here were the canisters that we saw on the restocking cart earlier. They were probably Home Goods or Pier 1 or Target or something like that. Nice color though. And then this was a little I'm trying to say selection, but not really. Little collection of votive cup holders with different colored flowers. But I didn't feel like picking them up. I think that one had a little chip maybe or something on it. Maybe that's why. Oh, that one there. I said, oh, look, there's a chip on the pedal. Well, there, that decides that. So I left it on the shelf. Now I remember what it was. I think those were stamps or postcards or something in there. Hopefully I'm not moving too fast for you, that you're enjoying shopping along with me. If you like this type of content, please give me a thumbs up. It really helps my channel grow. And if you want to double check that you are subscribed to my channel, I know lately I've gotten a few comments that people say, hey, I didn't get the notification that you had dropped a video, and it turns out I had been unsubscribed. And I think YouTube goes through and clears things out every once in a while. So please double check that you are still subscribed to my channel. I know I've gained a few new subscribers lately, so welcome in. If you're new here, my name is Dagny, and I do shop along videos like this, but I also do videos with my family, and I also have another YouTube channel called Flying Pig Knits that deals with everything yarny. The link to that is in the description of every video. This I grabbed because this is so cool, and I will show you what the paper looks like because I did open it up. I'll show you what that inside of that paper looks like because the graphics on it is so great. You put it on your refrigerator and you hold your mail. It's like before smart refrigerators. You had a magnetic mail pouch. That was neat. I was watching a Whatnot show, and they were selling, I don't know if they were vintage. I think they were vintage, but they were selling vintage Coca-Cola tins, and that is why I picked that one up. There was only one of them, so that is why I didn't buy that. But that reminded me of that Whatnot show where they were selling some Coca-Cola tins. She looked interesting, this little girl. It looked like she got caught doing something. And then, oh, that was another, oh, here, I was like, what is this? Is this a stamp? Don't write any comments yet. Hold on. I was like, this is a weird stamp. Is this for shortbread? What is this? That's unusual. Is this a paperweight? Don't worry, folks. I figure it out. It's going to take me a moment. I was like, huh, there's no signature on that. Does it go this way? And I was like, oh, this is a stopper for a bottle. Duh. It took me a little while to get there, but it did have a chip on the glass. So it did have some damage. But at first I was like, what is this? I've never seen it. It was the stopper for your bottle. Silly me. All right, doing another quick look at the glass to see if there was any more beautiful amber glass that had been put on the shelf while I was not looking. And now we're going to look over in the clear glass section. Here's some vintage bride and groom goblets for your wedding. Very nice. These were pretty too. I think those had some age to them. They look kind of old to me. And then a boot. And I just seen someone on Instagram make a video about pink boots that are for sale at Hobby Lobby. And I was like, look, here's a vintage blue boot here, but it had a chip on it. And then up top, they have a refrigerator dish, but it is missing its lid. I have two that are half that size that I need to list because mine have lids and they're not chipped. And then I thought of Jenny with this because it is a comic strip. I think that's Wizard of Id, but that has a resale value of like $8 to $12, so I decided not to get that. I wanted to make sure it was what I thought it was, but ultimately did look it up on eBay and put it back. And then I spied, look, there's the decanter. So we went and got the stopper and put the stopper with the decanter. If you hear any moaning, that's Barney. He's sitting next to me. There, ta-da! I figured it out. Here was a flower frog, but I have one of these, exactly that same shape at home. I decided to leave that there. Seeing if there's any fairy lights, of course, or anything that's hidden away in here. But I didn't really spy anything. Hopefully you didn't spy anything. Hopefully I did a good enough job for both of us. Let's see. Quick scan on the bottom shelf. Yeah, I think we're good. All right, let's move on. Here we are in the craft area. I like that this Goodwill has put all of their craft supplies and things all in this same row, so I always know where to look if I'm in the market for some yarn. There was a whole bunch of crochet thread yarn. That's what I call that stuff that was on the left-hand side. But I don't really use it anymore. I did use it as leader when I spun my own yarn, but I don't do that anymore. And I always check out vintage needlepoint kits. The Christmas ones are really good sellers. There weren't any. Doing a quick glance of this yarn, didn't see anything that I needed. Nothing compared to the Elizabethtown Goodwill when Jenny was with me and I found all of those bags of yarn, which I sold through all of them on a recent Whatnot show. Did keep some back for myself, but for the most part sold through, I would say, 99% of them, since I did keep a few skeins. Follow my hand so you don't get too dizzy. And here was a planter. I almost picked this up and then I noticed that there was a deep hairline crack that could be seen on both sides. So I decided to leave that. Here's a bag of vegetables. This one was a little unusual because it came with some fromage, some cheese, a little cheese wheel in there. The frogs are still here, which kind of surprises me. They are kind of cute. I found another piece of art pottery. This is a seashell shaped, maybe for your soap dish. Wasn't really feeling that, so I decided to leave that there. And then look at this gold. Wow. Made in Japan sticker on the back. Very, very shiny. I think it had a crane or a parakeet, not parakeet, peacock, maybe. It had some type of bird. All right, let's move on. There we are. This was neat. I was surprised it wasn't signed. It was very, very heavy, but that was a nice piece of pottery. And that was pretty, but it was more contemporary. And this had the same writing on the bottom, so I think those were probably sold in the same place. Then here was a little set of china. They had these individually priced as well. Salt and pepper shakers. I forget how much. Let me go back and listen to the original audio. Let me see how much these were. The salt and pepper shakers were $6.99, and the creamer and sugar were $4.99, and I believe $3.99 if I heard myself correctly. These are really gross, but they're just dirty. There's this set, and they're made in Italy, plastic trays. They just need to be cleaned up super good. But I really like the flowers. These are the grosser ones. And then there's those. And I like those, so we're going to get those. Put the rubber bands back on them. And clean them real good. And I think that'll turn out nice. Here's some fabric with cats on it. That's cute. A whole bunch of fabric here. All of this fabric is only $4.99. That seems like a good deal. And this fabric is also $4.99. All right, I'll put the rubber bands back on these. Put them in the cart. I was on my way up to the front of the store when I spied this squirrel. Thought, what is this squirrel for? What could it be? And then I saw that it was signed on the bottom, which was very exciting. So I put it in the Google, of course. Some of you already know what this is. And of course it makes sense now that I Googled it. It is for pulling and pushing back in your baking rack in your oven, which is very handy. So there I am showing you could push in the rack and then you could pull it with the back of the neck. I decided to leave it there, and I looked at this jewelry box, but it had, it did have somewhere, but it wasn't as special as I thought it was. All right, and that is going to wrap up our trip to the Goodwill. Here is that little piece of paper that came with the German little girl doll. There's her boy counterpart, Tony, and her name is Vroni. Aren't they adorable? Here we are looking on the back of the paper. It seems like they're occupations, maybe. Occupations and destinations. Little music guy. And this is the one I wish there was. Amore. I hope you enjoyed this video. Jimmy and I put out a taste testing video yesterday, so be sure and check out that video. Thank you so much for watching this one. I hope you're having a great evening. Take care, and I'll see ya.